Journal of the Royal Meteorological Society, 1/157. Extract from the log of the bark Lady of the Lake, by Captain F.W. Banner. Communicated by R.H. Scott, F.R.S. That, upon the 22nd of March, 1870, at latitude 5 degrees 47 minutes north, longitude 27 degrees 52 minutes west, the sailors of the Lady of the Lake saw a remarkable object, or cloud, in the sky. They reported to the captain. According to Captain Banner, it was a cloud of circular form, with an included semicircle divided into 4 parts, the central dividing shaft beginning at the center of the circle and extending far outward and then curving backward. Geometricity and complexity and stability of form, and the small likelihood of a cloud maintaining such diversity of features, to say nothing of appearance of organic form. The thing traveled from a point at about 20 degrees above the horizon to a point about 80 degrees above. Then it settled down to the northeast, having appeared from the south-southeast. Light gray in color, or it was cloud color. It was much lower than the other clouds. And this datum stands out: that, whatever it may have been, it traveled against the wind. It came up obliquely against the wind and finally settled down right in the wind's eye. For half an hour this form was visible. When it did finally disappear, that was not because it disintegrated like a cloud, but because it was lost to sight in the evening darkness. Captain Banner draws the following diagram. Textbooks tell us that the Dhurmsalla meteorites were picked up soon, or within half an hour. Given a little time, the conventionalists may argue that these stones were hot when they fell, but that their great interior coldness had overcome the molten state of their surfaces. According to the Deputy Commissioner of Dhurmsalla, these stones had been picked up immediately by passing coolies. These stones were so cold that they benumbed the fingers. But they had fallen with a great light. It is described as a flame of fire about 2 feet in depth and 9 feet in length. Acceptably, this light was not the light of molten matter. In this chapter we are very intermediatistic and unsatisfactory. To the intermediatist there is but one answer to all questions: sometimes and sometimes not. Another form of this intermediatist solution of all problems is yes and no. Everything that is, also isn't. A positivist attempts to formulate. So does the intermediatist, but with less rigorousness. He accepts, but also denies. He may seem to accept in one respect and deny in some other respect, but no real line can be drawn between any two aspects of anything. The intermediatist accepts that which seems to correlate with something that he has accepted as dominant. The positivist correlates with the belief. In the Dhurmsalla meteorites, we have support for our expression that things entering this Earth's atmosphere sometimes shine with a light that is not the light of incandescence. Or so we account, or offer an expression upon, thunderstones, or carved stones that have fallen luminously to this earth, in streaks that have looked like strokes of lightning, but we accept also that some things that have entered this Earth's atmosphere disintegrate with the intensity of flame and molten matter. But some things we accept enter this Earth's atmosphere and collapse non-luminously, quite like deep-sea fishes brought to the surface of the ocean. Whatever agreement we have is an indication that somewhere aloft there is a medium denser than this Earth's atmosphere. I suppose our stronghold is in that such is not popular belief. Or the rhythm of all phenomena. Air dense at sea level upon this earth, less and less dense as one ascends, then denser and denser. A good many bothersome questions arise. Our attitude. Here are the data. Luminous rains sometimes fall. Nature, March 9, 1882. Nature, 25/437. This is light that is not the light of incandescence, but no one can say that these occasional or rare rains come from this Earth's externality. We simply note cold light of falling bodies. For luminous rain, snow, and dust, see Hartwig, Area World, page 319. As to luminous clouds, we have more nearly definite observations and opinions. They mark transition between the old dominant and the new dominant. We have already noted the transition in Professor Schwedoff's theory of external origin of some hailstones, and the implications that, to a former generation, seemed so preposterous, droll was the word, that there are in interplanetary regions volumes of water, whether they have fishes and frogs in them or not. Now, our acceptance is that clouds sometimes come from external regions, having had origin from supergeographical lakes and oceans that we shall not attempt to chart just at present, only suggesting to enterprising aviators, and we note that we put it all up to them, and show no inclination to go Columbusing on our own account, that they take bathing suits, or rather deep-sea diving suits, along. So then that some clouds come from interplanetary oceans, of the Super Sargasso Sea, if we still accept the Super Sargasso Sea, and shine upon entering this Earth's atmosphere. In Himmel und Erde, February 1889, a phenomenon of transition of 30 years ago, Herr O. Jesse, in his observations upon luminous night clouds, notes the great height of them, and drolly or sensibly suggests that some of them may have come from regions external to this Earth. I suppose he means only from other planets, but it's a very droll and sensible idea, either way. In general, I am accounting for a great deal of this Earth's isolation, that it is relatively isolated by circumstances that are similar to the circumstances that make for relative isolation of the bottom of the ocean, except that there is a clumsiness of analogy now. To call ourselves deep-sea fishes has been convenient, but in a quasi-existence there is no convenience that will not sooner or later turn awkward. So, if there be denser regions aloft, these regions should now be regarded as analogues of far submerged oceanic regions, and things coming to this Earth would be like things rising to an attenuated medium, and exploding, sometimes incandescently, sometimes with cold light, sometimes non-luminously, like deep-sea fishes brought to the surface. Altogether conditions of inhospitality. I have a suspicion that, in their own depths, deep-sea fishes are not luminous. If they are, Darwinism is mere Jesuitism in attempting to correlate them. Such advertising would so attract attention that all advantages would be more than offset. Darwinism is largely a doctrine of concealment. Here we have brazen proclamation, if accepted. Fishes in the Mammoth Cave need no light to see by. We might have an expression that deep-sea fishes turn luminous upon entering a less dense medium, but models in the American Museum of Natural History specialized organs of luminosity upon these models. Of course, we do remember that awfully convincing Dodo, and some of our sophistications we trace to him. At any rate, disruption is regarded as a phenomenon of coming from a dense to a less dense medium. An account by M. Macarius, in the Transactions of the Swedish Academy of Sciences, 1808-215, translated for the North American Review, 3/319, that M. Macarius, having heard of an extraordinary and probably hitherto unseen phenomenon, reported from near the town of Skänning, Sweden, investigated. That, upon the 16th of May, 1808, at about 4 p.m., the sun suddenly turned dull brick red. At the same time there appeared upon the western horizon a great number of round bodies, dark brown, and seemingly the size of a hat crown. They passed overhead and disappeared in the eastern horizon. Tremendous procession! It lasted 2 hours. Occasionally one fell to the ground. When the place of a fall was examined, there was found a film, which soon dried and vanished. Often when approaching the sun, these bodies seemed to link together, or were then seen to be linked together in groups not exceeding 8, and under the sun they were seen to have tails 3 or 4 fathoms long. Away from the sun the tails were invisible. Whatever their substance may have been, it is described as gelatinous, soapy, and jellied. I place this datum here for several reasons. It would have been a good climax to our expression upon hordes of small bodies that, in our acceptance, were not seeds, nor birds, nor ice crystals. but the tendency would have been to jump to the homogeneous conclusion that all our data in that expression related to this one kind of phenomena, whereas we conceive of infinite heterogeneity of the external, of crusaders and rabbles and immigrants and tourists and dragons and things like gelatinous hat crowns. Or that all things here upon this earth that flock together are not necessarily sheep, Presbyterians, gangsters, or porpoises. The datum is important to us here as indication of disruption in this earth's atmosphere, dangers in entering this earth's atmosphere. I think myself that thousands of objects have been seen to fall from aloft and have exploded luminously and have been called ball lightning. As to what ball lightning is, we have not yet begun to make intelligent guesses. Monthly Weather Review, 3417. In general, it seems to me that when we encounter the opposition ball lightning, we should pay little attention, but confine ourselves to guesses that are at least intelligent, that stand phantom-like in our way. We note here that in some of our acceptances upon intelligence, we should more clearly have pointed out that they were upon the intelligent as opposed to the instinctive. In the Monthly Weather Review 33409, there is an account of ball lightning that struck a tree. It made a dent, such as a falling object would make. Some other time I shall collect instances of ball lightning to express that they are instances of objects that have fallen from the sky luminously, exploding terrifically. So bewildered is the old orthodoxy by these phenomena that many scientists have either denied ball lightning or have considered it very doubtful. I refer to Dr. Seister's list of 150 instances which he considered authentic. In accord with our disaccord is an instance related in the Monthly Weather Review, March 1887, something that fell luminously from the sky, accompanied by something that was not so affected, or that was dark. That, according to Captain C.D. Sweet of the Dutch bark JPA, upon March 19, 1887, north 37 degrees 39 minutes, west 57 degrees 00 minutes, he encountered a severe storm. He saw two objects in the air above the ship. One was luminous, and might be explained in several ways, but the other was dark. One or both fell into the sea with a roar and the casting up of billows. It is our acceptance that these things had entered this earth's atmosphere, having first crashed through a field of ice. Immediately afterward lumps of ice fell. One of the most astonishing of the phenomena of ball lightning is a phenomenon of many meteorites, violence of explosion out of all proportion to size and velocity. We accept that the icy meteorites of Dhurmsalla could have fallen with no great velocity, but the sound from them was tremendous. The soft substance that fell at the Cape of Good Hope was carbonaceous, but was unburned, or had fallen with velocity insufficient to ignite it. The tremendous report that it made was heard over an area more than 70 miles in diameter. That some hailstones have been formed in a dense medium and violently disintegrate in this earth's relatively thin atmosphere. Nature, 88 350. Large hailstones noted at the University of Missouri, November 11, 1911. They exploded with sounds like pistol shots. The writer says that he had noticed a similar phenomenon 18 years before at Lexington, Kentucky. Hailstones that seemed to have been formed in a denser medium. When melted under water, they gave out bubbles larger than their central air spaces. Monthly Weather Review, 33-445. Our acceptance is that many objects have fallen from the sky, but that many of them have disintegrated violently. This acceptance will coordinate with data still to come, but also we make it easy for ourselves in our expressions upon superconstructions, if we're asked why, from thinkable wrecks of them, girders, plates, or parts recognizably of manufactured metal have not fallen from the sky. However, as to composition, we have not this refuge, so it is our expression that there have been reported instances of the fall of manufactured metal from the sky. The meteorite of Rutherford, North Carolina, is of artificial material, mass of pig iron. It is said to be fraudulent. American Journal of Science, 2 34-298. The object that was said to have fallen at Marblehead, Massachusetts, in 1858, is described in the American Journal of Science 234 135 as a furnace product, formed in smelting copper ores or iron ores containing copper. It is said to be fraudulent. According to Ehrenberg, the substance reported by Captain Callum to have fallen upon his vessel near Java offered complete resemblance to the residue resulting from combustion of a steel wire in a flask of oxygen. Zurcher, Meteors, page 239. Nature, November 21, 1878, publishes a notice that, according to the Yuma Sentinel, a meteorite that resembles steel had been found in the Mojave Desert. In Nature, February 15, 1894, we read that one of the meteorites brought to the United States by Peary from Greenland is of tempered steel. The opinion is that meteoric iron had fallen in water or snow, quickly cooling and hardening. This does not apply to composition. November 5, 1898, Nature publishes a notice of a paper by Professor Berworth of Vienna upon the close connection between meteoric iron and steelwork steel. At the meeting of November 24, 1906, of the Essex Field Club, was exhibited a piece of metal said to have fallen from the sky, October 9, 1906, at Braintree. According to the Essex naturalist, Dr. Fletcher, of the British Museum, had declared this metal to be smelted iron, so that the mystery of its reported "fall" remained unexplained. We shall have an outcry of silences. If a single instance of anything be disregarded by a system, our own attitude is that a single instance is a powerless thing. Of course, our own method of agreement of many instances is not a real method. In continuity, all things must have resemblances with all other things. Anything has any quasi-identity you please. Some time ago, conscription was assimilated with either autocracy or democracy with equal facility. Note the need for a dominant to correlate to. Scarcely anybody said simply that we must have conscription, but that we must have conscription which correlates with democracy, which was taken as a base, or something basically desirable. Of course, between autocracy and democracy nothing but false demarcation can be drawn. So, I can conceive of no subject upon which there should be such poverty as a single instance, if anything one pleases can be whipped into line. However, we shall try to be more nearly real than the Darwinites who advance concealing coloration as Darwinism, and then drag in proclaiming luminosity, too, as Darwinism. I think the Darwinites had better come in with us as to the deep-sea fishes, and be sorry later, I suppose. It will be amazing or negligible to read all the instances now to come of things that have been seen in the sky, and to think that all have been disregarded. My own opinion is that it is not possible, or very easy, to disregard them, now that they have been brought together, but that, if prior to about this time we had attempted such an assemblage, the old dominant would have withered our typewriter. As it is, the letter E has gone back on us, and the S is temperamental. Most extraordinary and singular phenomenon, North Wales, August 26, 1894. A disk from which projected an orange-colored body that looked like an elongated flatfish, reported by Admiral Ommaney, Nature 50 524. Disk from which projected a hook-like form, India, about 1838. Diagram of it given. Disk about size of the moon, but brighter than the moon, visible about 20 minutes, by G. Petit in Professor Baden-Powell's Catalogue, reported the British Association, 1849. Very brilliant hook-like form seen in the sky at Poland, Trumbull Company, Ohio, during the stream of meteors of 1833, visible more than an hour. Large luminous body almost stationary, for a time, shaped like a square table. Niagara Falls, November 13, 1833. American Journal of Science, 125 391. Something described as a bright white cloud at night, November 3, 1886, at Hamar, Norway. From it were emitted brilliant rays of light, drifted across the sky, retained throughout its original form. Nature, December 16, 1886, 158. Thing with an oval nucleus, and streamers with dark bands and lines, very suggestive of structure, New Zealand, May 4, 1888. Nature 42, 402. Luminous object size of full moon visible an hour and a half, Chile, November 5, 1883. Comptes Rendus 103, 682. Bright object near sun, December 21, 1882. Knowledge 313. Light that looked like a great flame far out at sea off Ryukyu, December 2, 1845. London Royal Society Proceedings 5, 627. Something like a gigantic trumpet suspended, vertical, oscillating gently, visible 5 or 6 minutes, length estimated at 425 feet, at Oaxaca, Mexico, July 6, 1874. Scientific American Supplement 6, 2365. Two luminous bodies, seemingly united, visible 5 or 6 minutes, June 3, 1898. La Nature, 1898, 127. Thing with a tail, crossing moon, transit half a minute, September 26, 1870. London Times, September 30, 1870. Object 4 or 5 times size of moon, moving slowly across sky, November 1, 1885, near Adrianople. L'Astronomie, 1886, 309. Large body, colored red, moving slowly, visible 15 minutes, reported by Kaguya Marseille, August 1, 1871. Chemistry News, 24, 193. Details of this observation and similar observation by Guillemin, and other instances by de Fonville, Comptes Rendus, 73, 297, 755. Thing that was large and that was stationary twice in 7 minutes, Oxford, November 19, 1847, listed by Lowe. Raksai 1, 136. Grayish object that looked to be about 3.5 feet long, rapidly approaching the Earth at Saarbrück, April 1, 1826. Sound like thunder, object expanding like a sheet. American Journal of Science 1, 26, 133. Quarterly Journal of the Royal Institute 24, 488. Report by an astronomer, N.S. Drayton, upon an object duration of which seemed to him extraordinary. Duration 3/4 of a minute. Jersey City, July 6, 1882. Scientific American 4753. Object like a comet, but with proper motion of 10 degrees an hour, visible 1 hour. Reported by Purin and Glancy from the Cordoba Observatory, Argentina, March 14, 1916. Scientific American 115, 493. Something like a signal light, reported by Glacier, October 4, 1844. Bright as Jupiter, sending out quick flickering waves of light. Yearbook of Facts, 1845, 278. I think that with the object known as Eddie's comet passes away the last of our susceptibility to the common fallacy of personifying. It is one of the most deep-rooted of positivist illusions, that people are persons. We have been guilty too often of spleens and spites and ridicules against astronomers, as if they were persons or final unities, individuals, completenesses or selves, instead of indeterminate parts. But, so long as we remain in quasi-existence, we can cast out illusion only with some other illusion, though the other illusion may approximate higher to reality. So we personify no more, but we super-personify. We now take into full acceptance our expression that development is an autocracy of successive dominants, which are not final, but which approximate higher to individuality or selfness than do the human tropisms that irresponsibly correlate to them. Eddy reported a celestial object from the observatory at Grahamstown, South Africa. It was in 1890. The new dominant was only heir presumptive then, or heir apparent but not obvious. The thing that Eddy reported might as well have been reported by a night watchman who had looked up through an unplaced sewer pipe. It did not correlate. The thing was not admitted to monthly notices. I think myself that if the editor had attempted to let it in, earthquake, or a mysterious fire in his publishing house. The dominants are jealous gods. In Nature, presumably a vassal of the new god, though of course also plausibly rendering homage to the old, is reported a comet-like body of October 27, 1890, observed at Grahamstown by Eddy. It may have looked comet-like, but it moved 100 degrees while visible, or 100 degrees in 3/4 of an hour. See Nature 43, 89, 90. In Nature 44, 519, Professor Copeland describes a similar appearance that he had seen September 10, 1891. Dreyer says, Nature 44, 541, that he had seen this object at the Armagh Observatory. He likens it to the object that was reported by Eddy. It was seen by Dr. Alexander Graham Bell September 11, 1891, in Nova Scotia. But the old dominant was a jealous god. So there were different observations upon something that was seen in November 1883. These observations were Philistines in 1883. In the American Meteorologic Journal 1/110, a correspondent reports having seen an object like a comet with two tails, one up and one down, November 10th or 12th, 1883. Very likely this phenomenon should be placed in our expression upon torpedo-shaped bodies that have been seen in the sky, our data upon dirigibles or super zeppelins, but our attempted classifications are far from rigorous, or are mere gropes. In the Scientific American 50/40, a correspondent writes from Humaco, Puerto Rico, that November 21st, 1883, he and several other persons, or persons as it were, had seen a majestic appearance like a comet, visible 3 successive nights, disappeared then. The editor says that he can offer no explanation. If accepted, this thing must have been close to the Earth. If it had been a comet, it would have been seen widely, and the news would have been telegraphed over the world, says the editor. Upon page 97 of this volume of the Scientific American, a correspondent writes that at Sulphur Springs, Ohio, he had seen a wonder in the sky at about the same date. It was torpedo-shaped, or something with a nucleus, at each end of which was a tail. Again, the editor says that he can offer no explanation, that the object was not a comet. He associates it with the atmospheric effects general in 1883. But it will be our expression that, in England and Holland, a similar object was seen in November 1882. In the Scientific American 4294 is published a letter from Henry Harrison of Jersey City, copied from the New York Tribune, that upon the evening of April 13, 1879, Mr. Harrison was searching for Brorson's comet when he saw an object that was moving so rapidly that it could not have been a comet. He called a friend to look, and his observation was confirmed. At 2 o'clock in the morning this object was still visible. In the Scientific American Supplement 7, 2885, Mr. Harrison disclaims sensationalism, which he seems to think unworthy, and gives technical details. He says that the object was seen by Mr. J. Spencer DeVoe of Manhattanville.